ड्रग्स वाले बच्चे जो आपके पास आते हैं,
नहीं यतीम नहीं होते, बच्चे घर से भागे होते हैं। बच्चे तो अक्सर आते जाते रहते हैं।
बस ड्राइवर के साथ क्या करता है?
मतलब उनके साथ गलत काम होता है, मतलब उनको साथ ले जाते हैं, ज़बरदस्ती ले जाते हैं। ऐसे बच्चे होते हैं कि नहीं जाते। मैं बस ड्राइवर जना गुनाह उनके साथ करता हूँ।
आपके सामने हुआ है?
जी, बाकी ये हुआ कि ड्राइवर आए, एक बच्चा सोया था मेरी चारपाई पे, मतलब मेरे साथ।
हाँ।
और उसको पहले खींचा उसने, वो नहीं गया उसके साथ, फिर ज़बरदस्ती उसको ले गया।
उस लड़की को रोकने की कोशिश नहीं की? उसको एक बंदा ज़बरदस्ती लेके गया?
नहीं, कोशिश तो बहुत किया, लेकिन वो आदमी ज़ोरावर था, मतलब ले गया।
बच्चे की उम्र क्या थी?
बच्ची की 8 साल।
But as we later discover, there's more to Hassan Dean than he cares to admit. Naeem, whom we met at Afzal's day centre, comes here when there's nowhere else to go.
इधर मैं चरपाई पे सोया था। 4 बंदों ने मुझे पकड़ा, गाड़ी में बिठाया। एक वो गाड़ी का ड्राइवर था और 3 पौड़ी। तो उधर चारों ने मेरे साथ ज्यादती किया। उसके बाद मेरे खून भी निकला था, मैं बेहोश भी था।
Warning, this podcast is intended for mature audiences only. It contains adult language, themes, and humor. Everything said here is for comedic and satirical purposes only. It is not to be taken literally, and nothing in the show should be used as a basis for legal proceedings or real-world actions. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Welcome back to another episode of Slightly Offensive with your best host, me, Elijah Schaefer. Happy to be here today. Sorry about the internet issues. It just seemed like perhaps God was giving his greatest soldiers his toughest battles. You know what I'm saying, folks? Out on the internet, they call me Chief Ortho Bro, General of the Catechumen. And I agree with Dasha when she said, we need to put an end and a halt to all Protestants converting to Orthodoxy until we figure out what the hell is going on here. No, jokes aside, I'm not actually Orthodox. I don't know why people say that. I am interested in it. I'm looking into it. But I am looking into it because we are being invaded by the third world, and we have a religious problem here. Specifically, we have atheism, humanism, secular technocratic humanism, Islam, Hinduism, and it seems like all of those are clearly not the answer, because as Christianity declined, well, we get things like this. And while Christians said, well, maybe Christianity isn't the answer, what did they do? They imported people like this. The question is, how do you even know you have that talent? You know, that's the question here with the third world. It's like, oh, dude, you know, I do this thing where I hang off roofs and I stick a pole up my ass and I can balance through my butthole. And you go, impressive, but the question is, what led you to that moment? And there's not a lot of things that lead third worlders to that moment.
Doomsday says shit on a stick.
Yeah, shit.
Beautiful.
Shit on a stick. It's true. That reminds me of like those little like spirally potatoes that they put and they deep fry at the fair. You know, they hand them to you. Like, who invented that? Over here, we are inventing rocket ships and modern medicine, penicillin, right? Antibiotics. And they were putting poles up their ass. It's kind of weird as we left God. The modern Western world also just began putting poles up their ass too. And that's kind of where we're at. Today we're talking about the low grooming gang files, which you might have heard about on the internet. Since 1955, it turns out that there's been 250,000, and this was, by the way, only recorded in 40% of the precincts. So this is reports from less than 60%, I mean, less than 50% of the country. So the number is probably much higher. These are also reported rapes. 250,000 rapes of white women in the United Kingdom. And the way that the modern world tried to cover it up so that they could move the West into an immigration, open borders type of society. And the reason why this is so controversial, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but the fact that the government, institutions, social services, child protective services work together to allow their country, we used to say in Halo, like, I'm going to rape you or whatever, but to physically and legitimately be raped was literally so that we could force immigrants into our countries. And if you said anything about it, it was racist, as we saw with Nowak, the young UK guy who was killed in custody. It turns out that, being racist is worse in the Western world than actually being raped. We're not talking about Me Too rape. We'll talk about in a second why they put the Me Too movement out there. We're talking about these are brutal rapes. A lot of this topic is very unfriendly to children. This is not a children's show, but I'm just saying if you're squeamish, we're going to be reading reports of very graphic nature, of sexual nature. We won't be showing any graphic sexual images, but this is a real report. This is our history. This is our modernity. This is our current state of living. And it's actually one of the most disgusting things. I agree here and say it is actually worse than the Holocaust. And it makes you wonder if these are the things our government is doing to us. Did we really win World War II? Joining me to talk about this, as well as the EU vote on deportations, which was big. We're also going to be talking about the increase of accidents. Air traffic accidents seem to be going all over the place. And a few other stories is Riff TV contributor Nikki Rudd. Welcome back.
Happy to be here again, you guys. Continually, last Wednesday was the last time we were on the show, and it was much more lighthearted. We are, again, going into a very serious and tragic topic that is close to my heart. There's going to be a lot that I have to say about it. I'll wait until we start reading these reports to really tell you how I feel, what I'm thinking, and the rage that I feel on the inside as an ethnic Englishman. So we're going to have a lot to get into. Just like Elijah said, this is not exactly a show for children tonight. Not that our show on Rift TV is ever for children. But right now we are going to be, and myself, I will be personally reading some things that are extremely tragic and graphic, but they need to be said for our people to understand what's been perpetrated against us. But thanks for having me again tonight, you guys. We're excited to be here.
All right, so let's talk about something. Let's talk about the white woman. Let's start here. There was a continent, particularly a continent before the birth of the United States, the birth of Canada, New Zealand, the rest of the protectorates in Australia, that had women who on average looked like this. All right, so somebody saw that and saw an entire continent of these people. One group said, let's take what beauty we have, let's take the masterful architecture and the logic and the philosophy, and let's try to bring it to the third world. Let's bring the third world into a global empire. We will subjugate these people. We will conquer them. We will educate them. And while I completely kind of agree with colonialism and the idea of extracting resources and teaching people about Christianity and sort of spreading the gospel and the civilization that pairs with it, something changed during World War II. The great fall of the Western empires, including the Dutch Empire, the Spanish Empire, the French Empire, the British Empire, most importantly, above all else. And it began to say, what if we stopped going to the third world where our colonial empire has kind of failed? And why don't we start importing these people? Because God knows what happened when we went to the third world. There was a lot of bloodshed, a lot of disease, there was a lot of rape, and there was great chaos. But we tamed the world. Now, we can go through it. I'm not going to be cheap and just say, Jews did this, although they did do it. I'm not just going to say that. Who did it, and why did they do it, and why have we been plagued with these people? And why is it that when these people are here, we can see it, we can watch it, but our governments tell us that we're wrong for pointing it out? Let's jump into this report that came out that's actually pretty gut-wrenching, I would say, to say the least. A MP, I believe he is, from the United Kingdom, basically ended up coming out with this final report about the grooming gangs in the United Kingdom. And the reason why we brought the first video up, which we'll play later, is that about 87 and 95% of these gangs had traditional Muslim names, particularly Pakistani Muslim names, right? It's particularly one country. And yeah, there were some white Britons and probably some foreigners, some Eastern Europeans, I know that were involved in this. There are sick, perverted, terrible people who would join in with third worlders to rape their own people, just like our government has joined with the third world to rape their own people. And so I'm not saying that, it is only people of brown, complexion or only people of the Islamic faith that have the capability to do something like this. But it does take white people to accomplish this. It takes a government intentionally willing to ignore this to allow it to happen. It takes a government of white people to intentionally pursue a system that seeks to utopia of international multiculturalism at the expense of the most vulnerable. And yes, we're going to find out they raped and murdered babies. This really happened. Laughed about it too. Some of the most graphic things, even branding their initials near a young 12-year-old's butthole. And it's really sick. To give you a little bit of a background on this, we'll go through some of the reports here. Matt Van Swol broke this down pretty easily. This is the most basic description I could find here. So if you guys haven't read it, you should go read it. It's gotten over 1 million downloads already. Not enough to change the world, but when Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk were told that they were racist and crazy for talking about the problem of rape gangs, it turns out maybe they weren't racist. Maybe they were actually correct. Remember, Tommy actually went to jail for the trial here. He actually went to prison. He said this here: "I've just finished reading the Rape Gang Inquiry Report. It is without a doubt the most horrifying document I've ever read in my entire life. There's no close second, and it's worse than you could ever imagine. Here's what you need to know." And this is actually pretty sanitized. The inquiry estimates at least 250,000 girls, 250,000, were raped. They are overwhelmingly white girls, and they were raped, trafficked, and tortured over decades. The 250K number is the minimum, the floor. There are likely even more. By the way, that's the base minimum that they could legally represent. So the same crime was documented in at least 149 local authority districts, nearly 40% of the country. This wasn't dozens of isolated local incidents. This was an absolutely national pattern the state chose to let grow for decades. The first recorded case dates back to 1955. Let's just stop here for a second and discuss the interest of this. So World War II ends, right, approximately 1945. Some could say the Reconstruction era is at a peak here. You know, these 10 years, you have European Reconstruction. And they start flirting with the idea of migration from countries, they said, who helped us in the war, right? Who fought in Britannia or in the British Army in World War II. By the way, a lot of white men were killed. A lot of white men were killed in World War II. The best and the brightest among us, unfortunately. And we needed people to fill the labor, like we're seeing in Ukraine today, importing the Bangladeshis and the Indians. And so they began testing a narrative under the guise of filling gaps inside of labor, male-directed labor. Particularly, a lot of these guys were probably lower class, simpler guys who were drafted. Obviously, the upper class probably found themselves exempt from the orders for draft. And the government starts finding out in 1955, before even the Americans had their civil rights revolution, that, hey, as you import these people, they come with their culture, they don't integrate, and they actually don't just not integrate, because people always say that. What do you have a problem with them with their little shops and shawarmas? I don't have problems with their little shawarma shops. I have a problem with their little shawarmas forcibly penetrating our daughters, right? That's sort of the problem here. And this is where the controversy comes in. Before the mass entrance of these people, our government, specifically the United Kingdom, our Western governments knew that when you bring these people in, even at a small scale, with them comes extremely heinous, but extremely predictable behavior. And it gets worse as we go through this, but they knew this, they hid it from the public and decided that it was worth the sacrifice. They were willing to sacrifice the purity of young girls. And by the way, we're not talking about like mud sharking where it's like an 18-year-old girl or 20-year-old girls sleeping with a black. These are 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 6-year-olds, infants being raped by Muslims. They knew that these people were being forcibly raped, and they didn't care because their great experiment, whose great experiment, we'll talk about that in a few, was more important than the people of the country, and they sold them out. And I'm shocked to find out it goes back this far.
And I'm assuming that 1955 number you're using comes from what I believe is the earliest date they have recorded of a Pakistani gang rape of a British child, of a British girl in 1955. This was included in newspapers of record at the time in England, that there was a group of Pakistani men in 1955. And this would have been one of the earliest migrations, earliest groups of Pakistanis to move to Britain, to move to England, and immediately they are gang raping little English girls. This is a case that absolutely fills me with fury. It's hard to describe a situation or a case or crimes that enrage me to this level. This was one of my first, you can say, racial red pills, if you will, when I was 14 or 15 years old. It was actually Tommy Robinson. And he was on YouTube, I believe, at the first video I saw from him is when he went to Oxford, and he was at the Oxford debate stage, and he spoke about his experiences in Luton Town and how he witnessed Muslim gangs raping little girls, his ethnic English little girls, neighbors around him, and getting away with it, and them also killing people, stabbing people, robbing people, and the British local government doing nothing to keep it from happening. They actually facilitated it. They would actually make excuses for them. They would cover it up. They would say it's racism to call them out and call this for what it is. It's ethnic gangs. These aren't a bunch of, here's a British guy and a black guy and a Pakistani and they're actually just best mates and there's no correlation with race, brother. No, it is Pakistani gangs going around seeking out little white girls. And I have more details on why this is actually happening in the same manner it is, but I think, Elijah, you might have wanted to go through the rest of that tweet first.
So before we talk about the rest of the tweet, I want you to watch a video here. When I talk about cover-up from the government, here's a father who his daughter was a victim. And I want you to listen to what he said, what happened in the last several decades when he noticed what was going on and tried to intervene. Watch.
I'd got a phone call to say where Elizabeth was. So I come across, because I lived on next estate, I come across, banged on the door. I saw a movement in curtain. Then within probably 5 minutes, a police car arrived. They asked me what I was doing. I told them. They arrested me and took me back to where I lived, and then they arrested me. So obviously I'm sat in house again, and I was getting more and more frustrated. So I come back over to the flat.
Well, an hour later or something, was it?
It was about 20 minutes.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So it seemed within minutes, a van pulled up this time, and I think there were 2 or 3 officers. They arrested me, took me down to the police station. Took me in police station. They didn't take me to where they usually charge people and that. They took me straight through into a room near cells. So I'm in there. About half an hour later, they come and got me. Come on, you're going. I went, what do you mean? Just follow me, they said. So I followed them, and they took me through officers and out from where police station is, where public going. And they warned me if I come back to the flat, I'd be arrested for stalking. Because stalking laws had just come in then, serious ones. So they let me go.
But what happens if you say, like, my daughter's in there, I want my daughter out? Yeah. What do they say to you? She isn't in there, or she wants to stay in there, or what do they say to you? It was what they were saying to me, it was what they were threatening me with. You know what I mean? They wouldn't answer me questions. Why wouldn't they get her out? Why wouldn't they let me get her out then if they don't want to do it? And I just kept coming back all the time. Look, you're targeting people because of their race. I said, I'm not at all. It's because of what they're doing. These are grown men.
Yeah. Okay. So let's reference something here for a second,
Dude.
This story is the same story thousands of times across the country, where the police knew that Pakistanis, they knew the third worlders are committing crimes, and we're familiar with this in the United States. We're very familiar with this, and we have more freedom of speech here, so we're able to blast it a little more on the internet. And every white person in America knows that there's a 2-tier justice system here, that the court system, family court system does what? Looks out for women no matter what. The criminal court system does not prosecute blacks. That the criminal court system, if it's a white on black violence, will prosecute the white before they'll even think about the black. And if the black on white violence, they'll push it under the rug. We know this. Okay, this is understood, but it's annoying. It's infuriating. And we have our own watermelon felons here. Rest in peace, Carmel and Anthony. It's true. We think about this often. And Chud the Builder, right? I mean, the fact that the Jewish judge, which allegedly keeps moving and changing the goalposts. Right now, he has to have 10 different bond sources. Yeah, now you have to have 10 different bond sources, which is nearly impossible to do. There is a 2-tier justice system. Now, that's one thing. But as a parent, what was happening is it wasn't just the parents that they were saying, you're going to just have to let them rape them. Imagine the police telling you, you're going to have to let your daughter be sodomized, raped, and abused. And if you try to stop it, you go to jail. I think you would just go to jail. I would just go and shoot the people. Honestly, I'm just going to jail. But I mean, on the flip side of this, remember, it's not just them. They actually arrested the victims too, which we'll talk about later. The victims spoke out about it. They got in trouble. And I only bring this up because I do believe that this problem of third world and black rape and black crime is the only reason we got things like the Me Too movement. Because when rape becomes about like whether like most of female rape in America is the XX version of post-nut clarity, right? That's basically what a lot of it is. Now, we don't make light of rape here. We don't say that girls don't get really raped. But the truth is, if a girl just regrets rape, I knew someone recently that had a boyfriend and they said that 50% of the time they slept together was rape and 50% was consensual. A boyfriend, by the way. We have things like marital rape and things that people just start making up now when they regret their relationships or to give girls power. But when it comes to real rape, like this kind of gruesome rape, when it comes to real pedophile rings and molestation, our government doesn't just turn a blind eye. They collaborate with the aggressors and they cover it up. And that's kind of what it is. Rape is now this thing about like white boys who get drunk with their girlfriends and they regret it, when really rape should be tracking what's going on with the third world immigrants, pinning people down in parks, stabbing them, killing them, sodomizing them. And I just got to say, seeing a dad feel like his country is arresting him, which they did, to try to save his daughter, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But I'm going to tell you, it just gets a lot worse.
Honestly, sometimes I don't understand what's going on with these men, to where the point their spirit is so broken they just won't throw it all on the line. If I'm in that situation, it just doesn't matter if I'm going to jail. I'm not asking the police. I'm just breaking down the door, grabbing my daughter and running out. And if I have to, they don't have guns. If I have to bring a knife in there to protect myself as I'm trying to save my daughter, then so be it. I'm not asking your permission. I'm not asking questions. I'm running in there and getting out. And it's really disheartening to see this level of violence and evil inflicted against the most vulnerable in our society, little girls, little 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old girls, and no men are standing up in mass for it. And finally, you see, like in the Southampton riots 2 years ago, I believe, they had some white people rioting in the streets, and you see it in Belfast. So there is a contingent out there that are willing to take to the streets and do something about the abuse of our system, the murder of our people, the rape of our girls. But it's not near enough. And there's two sides to this that are interesting on the discourse, especially on Twitter, between Americans, right-wing America, and like the European right wing and the UK right wing on Twitter. And it's like there's copes on both sides. The Americans are always like, oh, the UK's screwed with immigration. Well, our racial composition is much worse than Europe's. But then Europe is like, America's terrible. America can't do anything. Look at your racial demographics, but your legal system is insane. The European legal system does nothing to protect their own little girls. I feel like you're going to find cases in America where a minority, a brown-skinned person does something terrible and the courts back them up and keep them safe. But to this level, the American courts do not allow the rape and abuse of our little girls like this. Like, you're going to go to fucking prison if you try to do this to our children. And men certainly aren't so held back by the system, attacked by the system to the point where they couldn't run in and save their own daughter from rape, from gang rape. Like there's still an element in America where you're an autonomous American man and you are actually able to save your daughter, save your loved ones, or save an innocent person from a crime. What is happening in the UK is so malevolent. It's like the hatred, people always say this, the purpose of a system is what it does. The purpose of the UK system is the death, rape, and destruction of the English people. Like that is the purpose of the UK system now, over and over again, time and time again. It's the punishment of the native population trying to stand up for themselves, throwing them in jail, denigrating, desecrating their name, their tradition, their culture to the benefit and uplifting the foreigner, the third worlder, the brown skin. That's what it is time and time again. I'm encouraged to see this rape report coming out, and this is going to do its rounds. But if the British people en masse don't vote for Rupert Lowe and restore Britain, then no change is going to come. There's no other party that's going to be able to facilitate any real change.
Yeah, and here's the deal. So he goes on to say this. Children's homes became actual trafficking hubs. Social services placed already groomed kids in units they knew were targeted, returned the girls to the exact addresses where they'd be raped, and stripped protective parents of authority, often in front of the children. So what this is like an extreme version of American Family Court. Like, you think American Family Court is messed up? Wait till you see Family Court in the UK. All right, they're stripping parents' authority. And we fight a lot about that here in the US. You know, like the government making your kids get vaccinated, or the government making your kids go to public school, or the government telling you that, you can't, maybe you can't have multiple wives, or different things that people, the Mormons wanted, or whatever. And there's a lot of religious arguments on that ground. But imagine you're a parent and the government's like, you're just going to have to let your kids get raped. And this is actually in the report what they said. It said, no action followed after this was reported when Fiona's mother called the police to report her daughter missing and mentioned a history of abuse by Asian men. These are Muslim people. The call handler told her, you can't describe them as Asian men because that's racist. You should just be glad your child is being taught a different culture.
Insane.
On one occasion, a police officer returned Fiona to the house where the abuse was occurring and told the men to, quote, have fun with her. On another occasion, police instructed the abusers that if they could persuade Fiona to sign herself out of care, the police would stop bothering them. The police colluded, telling the parent, if you don't want your kid abused and raped, and we're going to talk about this is even not just penetrative sex, like forceful sex, which is rape, by the way. That is like the basic definition. This is a like sexual abuse at a level that you'd have to literally be a demon to think of doing this to a human being. It's, this is something that you have to realize it is a sickness. And you wonder how Weimar existed. This is Weimar conditions.
Absolutely.
The police telling you your kids, imagine your daughter, she gets free. Because he says here in the next message, I have 2 more points from him. He said the police criminalized the victims and let rapists walk. Girls were literally arrested for being drunk and disorderly. Can we bring this on the screen here? Drunk and disorderly after their own assaults. A South Yorkshire officer cut a no prosecution deal with a known abuser. Some officers were inside the rape gang. That's why I said some of them, obviously colluded with this. We can take that off. I want to read another excerpt from the actual investigation that I find to be, pretty alarming here. When we talk about them getting mad at the victims, it says the following week, her daughter attempted suicide by overdose. She went missing one final time and was found in a field with injuries to her head, ear, severed finger, and numerous cuts and bruises. Following this, she wrote a post on Facebook alleging that she had been a victim of grooming gangs. The post went viral. Within half an hour, the police arrested her, and she was sent to prison. Following her daughter's conviction, the family experienced sustained harassment and intimidation, particularly from one Muslim man. Sally reports repeated failures by the police to protect them. She believes her daughter was a vulnerable young woman who lied at times, but was nevertheless groomed. And so she was found in a field, evidence of her being raped and abused. She talked about it, and she was sent to prison for it. And it's like, that's where the government doesn't care about children. They don't care about women. They don't care about anything. In fact, what they care about is this grand social experiment meant to punish us. And I mean this, like, I once heard a quote from a guy online, it made me so happy. He was like, you might be upset about the Iran war, but like at least throughout all of history, the good guys have always won.
Yeah.
He goes, they've like, that's got to be a reassuring thing. Like the good guys just have always won, right? Like every war throughout all of history, the good guys always win.
And bringing up the Weimar Republic is a good point, because what you're seeing in the UK, and most Americans don't keep up with the rest of the world. They don't keep up with UK politics or European politics because America runs the world. So we only think about ourselves. But as someone who does keep up with it, a lot of people don't understand the destruction of Christianity within Europe, especially within the UK. The UK is a post-Christian culture. They still, by law, are supposed to be a Christian country, but Christianity's been desecrated in the UK to the point now where the UK has abortion up until birth laws mandated throughout the entire country. Like the entire country, you can murder a child in the womb a week before it's supposed to be born when it's more than fully viable. And that's not even really a debate. There's not even much of a pushback. See, in America, that's almost unbelievable. Pro-life is such a big part of our culture. It's a serious thing. There's actual real pushback. That's how far the UK has gone. And also, because of the loss of Christianity, there's also a level of sexual revolution, of sexual liberation that they have in Europe and in the UK that we don't have to the same degree in America, even though there's lots of problems in America on that front, don't get me wrong. They view these girls, these 12-year-old girls, as like sexually liberated. This is how liberal the mind has become in the UK. These little girls are children. They don't understand what they are doing, but because they are able to go out and walk to school back and forth, genuinely, these liberal police officers and social service workers, they believe that these girls are autonomous, basically adults that can, if they want to have sex, that's their choice. That's what they're doing. These 12-year-olds, they know that what they're doing with these 35-year-old Asian men. That's what they call them. Again, I'm glad you said that. A lot of Americans don't understand the UK. They refer to Arabs and Indians and Pakistanis as Asian men just because they're part of the continent. But these children, the same thing happened in the Weimar Republic, specifically in Berlin. You had pedophile prostitution, open child prostitution that nobody did anything about until a certain party came into power. This is the same infection that has taken over the West at large, and specifically liberals in every single country, that the sexual liberation, the freedom of autonomy, the disassociation from God and Christianity and our Christian Western culture, it leads to this. This is the end goal. This is 12-year-old girls, 11-year-old girls going out, being plied with alcohol, and then they get raped, and then they report their rape, and then the officers say, well, why were you drinking alcohol? Well, why were you hanging out with Asian men? Why were not Asian men? They wouldn't say that. Why were you hanging out with older men? They view these children not as vulnerable beings, but as stupid or foolish consensual sex havers. That's really genuinely what they thought about these children. And I'm very happy that on X this is blowing up to the degree it is, because I think this will fuel what we need in Europe and in the UK specifically.
Yeah, and look at this. So here's another excerpt. I'm going to read this. I want to play you a really sick video. It's not graphic. And then I'm going to play you another video of Rupert Lowe, the guy who compiled this. It's very important. So this says, you, Mohammed Karar, prepared her for gang anal rape by using a pump to expand her anal passage. You subjected her to gang rape, five or six men. At one point, she had 4 men inside her. Like, even the most extreme, corn stars, they have, I don't know if I've ever seen, even when I used to look at that stuff, I don't think I've ever seen anything that extreme. 4 men inside you is like, you'd have to be like very, very used up, right, to be at that level.
12-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl, 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, a red ball was placed in her mouth to keep her quiet. Not only were you both involved in the commercial sexual exploitation of GH, you also used her for your own self-gratification. You both graped her when she was under 13. This is prepubescent, by the way. When she was very young, although it is not clear whether she was under 13, you both graped her at the same time, oral and vaginal anal. It happened on more than one occasion. Look, I'm not going to get graphic here, but what I was going to say is even if you're in like a lot of women, the grown women who are very sexually active, that like sex and would be considered sluts or whores, they don't even like their anus being penetrated by men. It's honestly a truthful thing. The majority of women are not into that, okay? And because it is painful for them at first. Now, obviously the vaginal cavity was, God created it for procreation. When you're under 12, I don't think it's
not procreation.
I don't think that's procreation. I don't think that's ready. And if you ever, had intercourse with a virgin or whatever like that, it obviously is painful for them in the beginning. So you feel really bad for these chicks. But to do what they did in the anal side, that's damage and scarring that quite frankly may cause complications for life. And I'm bringing this up. Like, this is not just like a grown woman who was vaginally penetrated and it's emotional trauma, right? You're talking about physical damage that cannot be undone, okay? And then you go down here and it says worse. Mohammed Karar, on one occasion when GH was 12, after graping her, she threatened you with your lock knife. Your reaction was to pick up a baseball bat with a silver metal handle, strike her on the head with it, and then insert the baseball bat inside of her vagina. You treated her as if she was your commodity. You branded her with your initial near her anal passage using a hot hairpin. If GH did not comply with your wishes, if you were not with other people, you would lose your temper with her. As a part of the grooming, you would provide her with crack cocaine and you injected GH with heroin on numerous occasions. Like, this is worse than a horror movie. And meanwhile, they're putting people in jail for making racist comments online. And the police are returning girls like this back to the grooming gang, telling them that, have fun with her. What makes it even worse is there was a campaign in the United Kingdom to encourage immigrants to come, to migrate. And they used 12-year-old girls to do it. Remember this?
Shemai. Hello and welcome to Wales. We understand being a refugee isn't easy. They go through so much.
Fleeing your country is difficult, but Wales wants to help you feel welcome.
The Welsh Refugee Council is here to help you.
Wales is seen as a nation of sanctuary. We welcome anyone and everyone. We recognise your skills and talent.
The Welsh Refugee Council offers a lot of support, including ESOL classes, which means English for Speakers for Other Languages. It may be hard to learn our language, so we offer support. Employment. You may feel stressed about employment, but we can help. They help you to apply for bank accounts, child benefits, and they can help with housing. It's very important to have a warm place that you can call home. Education. Children have the right to education. Play for children. We know how important it is for children to socialise. Help finding doctors. It's extremely important to have healthcare.
Not only this, but Wales offers free education and healthcare.
There are many job opportunities here in Wales. IKEA works closely with the Welsh Refugee Council, providing jobs for refugees that come from all over the world.
We understand that you have been through a lot, and that is why the Welsh Refugee Council is here to help you.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, Nikki, I'm just going to go to you on this. Using 12-year-old white girls to invite military-aged men into the country that don't believe in consent, that don't believe in respecting of boundaries, that don't share our cultural values. My idea is that they knew about this. That's why they did stuff like this, because they knew that men were going to want to come to rape the girls. And it's like basically saying, the best way we can get more immigrants here is show them girls. Those are prepubescent girls, by the way. That is what pedophilia, like the staunch directive across the world.
That's not even a fucking teenager.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a sexually developed
I look
person.
at that.
That's disgusting.
I look at that, and that is the definition of a child, of a vulnerable child who we have the greatest obligation to defend and protect and shield from evil, from wickedness, from rape, from gang rape. Imagine that, think about that. These children were not protected from gang rape. And what you just read off is just some of what happened. And so I'm going to read off some more things that happened, okay? Because this is something that must be heard. It must be read. It must be understood. And it must be highlighted. 250,000 plus British girls. Here's what is included in this report. A baby was abused and had cigarettes snubbed out on it while the mother was forced to watch. The baby was then killed. Girls were set on fire. Girls were sent to red rooms to be tortured. Some of them killed. Some of it was live streamed. One girl was graped by a dog while men bet on whether it would vaginally or anally grape her. Girls were forced to have abortions with knitting needles. Glass bottles, keys, baseball bats, and other objects were forced inside them, some shattering while inside them. Girls were gang raped by dozens of men at a time in party houses. Girls were whipped, hung upside down, suffocated, and urinated on. Girls as young as 5 or 6 were tied up and abused in all the ways you can imagine. Girls were locked in dog cages. Girls were branded with an M for Muhammad. Girls were threatened with being killed and fed to pigs. They were threatened with that. Girls were mocked for wearing a crucifix during the rapes. They were mocked for being Christian during their rape. I tweeted this out earlier. I have not, and never will believe in an alliance with Muslims. I will never believe in that. These people do not belong in our society. They never have, they never will, and they have to go back. They have to go back. We talk about lots of different groups here. They're not the only ones, but this is incompatible with our civilization on a level that I almost can't even describe. This is depravity that the Western man cannot comprehend because it's not in our blood. When we see one of our own do something remotely close to this, we want them crucified. If a white dude does anything close to this, remotely similar to this, I want him executed. When it is somebody who never belonged here in the first place, who is a foreigner, who is the opposite of everything we think, we believe, we worship, we act, we vote, we behave, it is an especially gruesome and evil and malicious action. It is a crime that is on another level. It is worse when a foreigner does this to our children because it never should have happened in the first place. There is always going to be intra-racial violence and crimes. It's just like your own family. You're always going to have problems with your own family. If you bring in another family inside of your home, now problems that never would have existed in the first place start to occur. These interracial and ethnic crimes, they are worse because they should have never taken place. It was totally unnecessary. They never should have been there in the first place. They were totally and completely avoidable. This is the rape and murder of our civilization that we could have prevented the whole time. that never had to happen in the first place. And this is why anyone who stands by this, who supports this, who tells you that you're a bad person for supporting immigration, they should be named, shamed, and not on them, but near them in their general vicinity, they should be spat at. They should feel shame, and you should never back down. You should never apologize. You should never feel bad for giving them the shit they deserve, because they are scum and they are complicit and they are responsible for the rape of our children, the murder of our children and our people, and the death of our society and civilization. These people are responsible for that, and they should be held to account for it, and they should be voted out of every office they have. And if not that, they should be intimidated to the point where they don't want to run for office. They don't want to hold office anymore, because they are responsible for the most heinous crimes our civilization has ever witnessed. Get them out. Get them out. Name and shame them. They're scum. I hate it. I hate them.
Well, it gets worse. So Rupert Lowe testified in front of Parliament, and I'm reminding you that this is what's been going on. Let's listen to him in his account here, and watch the shame of the people around him, just like don't know what to say.
He took his pants down, penetrated me, had sex with me. He then stopped before ejaculation. He picked up the bottle of Jack Daniels, which was now empty, and he forced it up inside me. He broke the glass while he was there. At that point, I was about 12, nearly 13. Another testimony. I was held down by the men as they each took turns to orally and vaginally rape me, taking it in turns to pin down my arms and my legs. When the assault ended, the men hit me repeatedly, threatened to find me, kill me, and harmed my loved ones if I ever told anybody what had happened. Another. Comments were constantly made suggesting that white girls, the Christian girls, were viewed as having fewer morals or lower values, whereas Muslim girls were described by some of the men as having dignity and higher moral standing. These comparisons were used to justify the way I was treated and to further humiliate and control me. Another. She was a white woman herself, who I imagine may have been groomed, and has obviously now married into the family, shouting obscenities at us. Throughout the whole sentencing, she was constantly saying, "Fucking liars, lying white bitches." She said to me that God will be the witness for what happens to me. Another. Race did play a part and motivated the selection or demographic of the victims. Throughout my exploitation, the other girls I encountered or who were abused alongside me were almost exclusively white. Another. She had a baby by him, and his dad was an imam. His dad knew, and he got his son married and said that he wasn't allowed to see the child. They look after their own community. Another. Over the course of the abuse,
I want to explain to people some of the reasons why these rapes and these gang rapes were specifically of white little girls. First of all, it's because of simply the word that always gets thrown around against us, racism. They hate us. They hate us because we are a different race than them, we are a different ethnicity than them, and we are a different religion than them. But it's not only that reason. I'll explain to you their culture, where this comes from. This happens in their home country to children, little girls and little boys. Actually, if you didn't know that, if you didn't catch the beginning of this show, this happens in Pakistan to little boys, honestly, sometimes even more with specific demographics in the country. But their culture is one of pedophilia and of rape. I'll explain to you, there was a woman who, she is English. She's been working on this case, this grooming gang scandal, for a long time. And she organized a march that recently happened in protest, English people protesting what's happened to their daughters, to their children. This woman, she was organizing the march. A Muslim lady from her community contacted her and said the same thing happens sometimes to Muslim girls in their community. So the Muslim wives, the mothers, they encourage their men to go after British, English, white girls instead to keep their own daughters safe. She said, as the Muslim woman saying to the English woman, as many marriages are arranged, They don't want to have to service, that was her word, their husbands, so they encourage them to take British girls. They encourage them to rape little British, English, white girls. She reassured me by saying, but I would never encourage them to do that to nice girls like your daughter, though. This is their culture. This is rampant. This is rife within their society, their community, and their civilization. This is the third world mind that we cannot comprehend. These people have never belonged here. This is just one example of why. They do not view sex between two people as a consensual act that two adults who love each other or like each other or are sexually attracted to each other engage in. They view it as, I am a man, I have an urge, I'm going to take what I want. That is how they view sex. That is how they view sexual intercourse. It's not intercourse. It's just one person getting their rocks off, whatever you want to call it. That's what they view this as. It's incompatible. It doesn't belong here. It is foreign to our understanding of relationships between men and women, between adults and children, between races, between ethnicities, between religions. They do not have anything remotely close to our mindset. It is completely foreign to us. It is alien to us. These are foreign aliens that we have allowed into our culture, into our country, who are now running amok and doing whatever they want. Because honestly, at the end of the day, we do have subversives who have taken over our society and our governments who are facilitating this. But at the end of the day, the white man just has to reassert himself in his own country. Take sovereignty over your own country again. Say no more. No more will I allow this to happen. I will stand up. I will fight for what's mine. I will fight for my family. I will fight for my loved ones. I will fight for my society, my culture, my civilization, and my God, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I want to bring up a super chat here. We got a big super chat. Well, it's not, yeah, well, it's still big. Every super chat's big, actually. $20 from Alan's Alp said, if we're literally at the point where the left can't acknowledge this, that they're so far gone to completely ignore this level of evil, then what does that say about our social fabric? This is completely psychotic. Absolutely true, Alan Alps, is that it's like, you know, libs are more mad about the algae. Do you know there was a pro-algae protest today at the Reflection Pool in DC? They set up a protest to say that they preferred the pool with algae. And that's what liberals are doing. This is, I can find it for here for a second. This is not a joke here.
I like it green.
Yeah, that's
the
literally
reflecting pool.
Bro.
That's actually what was going on. And I want to bring up a picture here that DC Drano put up to show you how many girls this is. If you look at the abuse of this is how many girls that they have reported. It's 4 stadiums, 4 large American stadiums full of girls. That many girls have been raped in one country. Well, one United Kingdom, I should say. In one United Kingdom, by this group, who, by the way, there's only about 800,000 of them in the country, you know, are able to do 250,000 rapes. I'm sorry. So we're now judging, like, it's like, oh, I'm sorry for judging Muslims based on the fact how they almost all behave, right? And reminding you, it's the same with the black thing. It's like, well, there's 800,000 of them, but how many of them are women? Let's say, you know, a quarter. Maybe, you know, so now there's only maybe about 600,000. How many of them are old and kind of like not a part of this?
But think about that number. 800,000.
But it's like a 1 for 1.
It's like 250,000 victims. So that's like
but I'm saying,
over 1 out of 4. So that means basically every single one of them knew somebody.
Yeah, but listen to what I'm saying. Even
who
more.
Was raping a child.
It's like maybe between the guys between like 16 and 30 that were a part of this, 16 and 40 is like maybe 300, 400,000. So it's like almost every guy you see is a part of a rape gang that's a Muslim or participated in rape or directly is hiding it and concealing it. And so it's like, this is literally all the men. When do you just declare war on these people and realize they're colonizing your country and they're at war with you? Muslims have always colonized and they colonized with rape. That's what the Turkish did to the Greeks. That's what the Turkish did to the Eastern Europeans. That's what the Turkish have always done. That's what the Ottomans did. You know, they conquered through rape. And they always like to rape the Christians. And it's kind of like the reason why I think the West doesn't understand is because they don't realize that despite us being atheists, they still view us as Christianity. And they believe that we need to be conquered and raped. That's why you see it's not just about, you know, third world guys who have an uncontrolled sexual appetite. This is always Muslims trying to target Christians to humiliate them. And it all involves their religion. And look, I know that we say that Americans really, you know, are not focused on some of the bigger issues. I think Islamic immigration is a bigger issue in Dearborn, Michigan. in Minnesota. In Frisco, I get mad because we have Hindu problems here above all else. Plano has Muslim problems, but we have Hindu problems, and people are not letting us speak our minds. They're trying to make us make it about Muslims. But I'm also not a single voter issue, and I don't ignore the problem. I always say Islam is a very serious threat, especially to countries like Sweden, especially to countries like the United Kingdom, especially to countries like Portugal, Spain, right? They've always been, and Germany, among other nations, France too. But France is a lot more of like African issues, maybe than just Islam in and of itself. They do have an Islamic issue. When do you just kick all these people out? How many more girls need to get raped before it's worth it for you? And how long do the people really put up with this? A report came out today that the United Kingdom has more arrests in a year than Russia, Turkey, China, and I believe North Korea combined for online arrests or things that were said through electronic communication. And they're really nominal charges. We're not talking about severe death threats like the guys here that, I don't know if I believe it. It's probably an inside job, but the FBI, found these guys plotting to, use drones to bomb the UFC 250. Right. So like yeah, you should go to jail. You're buying firearms, you're recruiting people to bomb a, what really is a civilian event on government property, but it's a civilian event. There's a lot of non-civilians there, but sedition, conspiracy, these are illegal. I mean, whether you want to do it or not, the people who founded our country were doing illegal things to find the country. You probably shouldn't just be going around talking about killing Sean Strickland and Trump. It's probably not going to do you very good. But we're talking about people are getting arrested, not just for saying racist things, but for calling out racism towards their own people. White people and Christians were targeted. This was an anti-Christian, anti-white rape gang war. When do you just tell the Pakistanis, you all got to go home? There's too many of you. Like, I'm sure, like, some of you are good people. And it's look, we're not saying all Pakistanis are rapists and all Pakistanis love this. There are probably Christian Pakistanis that live in the United Kingdom. But it's like, we can't, you're not compatible with living here. One raped white Christian girl is worth, like, one unraped, I should say, white Christian girl is worth more than every Pakistani and everything they provide to society. Get them all out. Right? They've all got to go. They're overloading the NHS. They're overloading the entire welfare system, public housing. It's despicable. It's disgusting. But besides the economic, ramifications of having these people around, these individuals are raping and killing our people. And I think Belfast is just the beginning of what you're going to see, massive uprisings of people over years, maybe. Or maybe the police state is already too far gone. It's funny, right as this comes out, the United Kingdom also instituted their keep children safe online. They care about making sure you're not exposed to Nick Fuentes or Chud the Builder or someone like that, so that you don't, say they're chimping out or something like that, which can cause real repercussions, as I've learned. But they don't really care if the kids are getting raped, right? They'll put a guy in jail because his girlfriend regretted having sex with him, or she was mad at him, so she said he raped her. But they won't put, actual men who are sodomizing and branding women because they don't want to seem racist. White man, Christian man, when do you realize there's a war against white Christians? There's a war, and it's not just from Muslims, it's your own government. It is this technocratic Jewish government. Who let the Muslims in? It was a Jewish woman in 95, I believe, that opened the borders in the United Kingdom. And they knew about this from 1955 on, and she still opened the borders knowing that this would lead to the rape and the murder of their own people. And you got to ask yourselves this: what better evidence do you need to have? If a country really won a war, a world war, if they were the good guys, wouldn't good things be happening to their people? No. Man, I wish I would have seen what Berlin would have been if Hitler had won.
Absolutely.
It would have been great. And now Berlin is back to the degenerate brothel and gay sex capital. Shout out, Francis.
Yeah.
It is the gay capital of the world. So that's kind of where it's back to being. And you can sort of measure that we lost based on the fact that our own countries now are rigged against our own people. It wasn't until after World War II that we flooded our nations with immigrants. Every single country, by the way, from Rhodesia, which has fallen, to South Africa, which I'd say is pretty much a failed state, now to the Australia, New Zealand. Even now, I think the number one name in New Zealand is now Patel or something like the last name of newborn babies. It's getting out of control, and we can get control of it. We'll talk about how we're going to do that in a second, but I'll let Nikki give us finishing thoughts on this. Just soak this in, people, and realize that just like what happened with the Somali fraud or the Arab fraud and what's going on in California, the Medicaid fraud, the things that the government is allowing in this country from non-white people, should make you wonder, do we really need all these non-white people here? The answer is no, we don't.
No, they don't belong here. And this is the last time I'm going to read off anything about what happened here, because honestly, I don't know if I can continue to read this off, but I just really want to hammer this home for people. I want them to understand what's been perpetrated against our people, because real quick, I'll tell you, I'm an Englishman by blood. I'm majority English with some Scottish and Irish in me as well. I've been to England. I care about England. I care about the English people. I look at that as my home as well. America is always first and foremost my home. I always put America before any other nation, but I still look at these people. When I went there as a 16-year-old, these older English gentlemen, they look just like my grandfathers. I could walk down the street with them and say, oh, this is my grandfather. He just still lives in the UK, and anyone would have believed me. So I view these as my kinsmen, and I view these little girls, which I'm about to describe to you what happened to one little girl. I view these little girls as my cousins. Here's victim testimony of Chloe, a rape gang survivor who was brave enough to say specifically what happened to her to the rape gang inquiry. She was abducted by a Muslim abuser at 12 years old. She was raped as a 12-year-old in a graveyard the first time. He raped her with a whiskey bottle, which broke off inside of her. The NHS removed the pieces but asked no questions. The NHS is the National Health Services. These are their hospitals. They removed the pieces and asked no questions. She was plied with drugs and alcohol as a 12-year-old, told police she was having sex with adults, but was dismissed as a child prostitute because we shouldn't shut down child prostitution. Yeah, that's definitely their fault. She was passed between men daily for years. Police found her with her abusers, but released the men, did no investigation. Chlamydia was found in her throat and vagina. She was found with gonorrhea, warts, PID at the age of 13. The clinic said nothing. No one was arrested. A social worker that she spoke to suggested that she audition for a TV role as a grooming victim instead of helping her because she said she was lying. As she got older, the gang invaded her home, orally raped her on the sofa in front of others, raped her with objects, cans, keys, baseball bat, forced to house and witness abuse of other children. She was spiked with heroin, leading to addiction and anorexia. She weighed 70 pounds at 18 years old. Once this was finally starting to stop, she was coerced into Islamic conversion and marriage to an illegal immigrant abuser who beat her daily. And she finally gave birth to a child who had serious health issues from her damaged body. All of this happened in Britain, in their country, in the UK, our homeland. That is where the United States was born from. We are a child of Great Britain, and this happened to our girls. Any sane and civilized society would be having public execution for these atrocities. Wickedness of this magnitude requires a display of strength from the state. Anything else is treachery. Anything else is the betrayal of your people who call your land home, who call you their leaders, who are looking upon you and looking to you directly as the ones to protect them from evil, from wickedness, from harm, robbery, rape, and abuse, murder, etc. These are the leaders of our countries, and they do nothing, whether it's an Epstein a pedophile ring in America where no one's been arrested yet, despite half the files being released, in the UK, in Germany, in France, in Sweden, in the Netherlands, in Spain, Italy, Poland. Poland's one of the only ones it's not happening in. You could basically list every single European country, every single Western white nation. This is what's happening. Our people are being betrayed, and it's being perpetrated from the top down by people who hate our civilization, they hate our society, and they want to destroy us. There's no other rational response other than collective action from white people who are self-respecting, who have a spine, who have balls, who care about their children, the future of their nation, the generations to come. The only sane response is serious political action right now. No hesitation, no more waiting. Don't ask for someone's going to rise up, someone else will do it. No, you have to do it. You have to get involved. You have to be the change that you want to see. You have to be a part of this effort, of this fight, of this war to stop what's happening to our people, to our little girls, to our wives, to our friends, to our loved ones, to our cities, to our states, to our countries. You have to be a part of this. There's no more sitting on the sidelines. It's time to stand and fight. It's our only option at this point.
Yeah, that's a good, very good conclusion to that. Now, what is that leading to? It's quite interesting. There's another topic here I want to bring up about the current state of affairs. A individual named Manis Carlisle, I don't know how to say that, said a dark moment likely to go down in EU history. Centrists allied with the far right to establish detention centers for migrant families to the chance of send them back. The left replies, shame on you. Listen to this.
Adopted. The first reading of Parliament is closed.
666 overall members of Parliament. Interesting number.
On the agenda, the report by Mrs. Brigmont on the EU-Pakistan Agreement modification of concessions on tariff rate quotes. Vote on consent by roll call vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed. We move to the... It's adopted.
You can hear from those chants, the shame on yous, that's majority women. That's almost all women chanting that. You hear in the send them back, almost all men. Shame on you, almost all women. This is why they should have never been a part of our political process. The empathy, the suicidal empathy, the capacity women have for that will destroy civilizations and nations. They're meant to be led. They have a very important role in the home. They are not supposed to be our political leaders because they will lead us down the path of suicide. And ultimately, women vote for their own rape. Women vote for their own rape, their own subjugation, and their own murder by foreigners because they have this suicidal empathy, this ideation, this idea that everyone deserves the same sort of consideration that we have for our own people in our own countries. They view Mohammed in Iran, in Iraq, the same as Nigel, who's living in England. They don't think there's any distinction. There's no difference there. We're all just one global community. People don't have different ideas of what consent is, of what the age of consent, of whether a child is a grown woman or whether she's a 11-year-old little girl. They have no idea. That's what these women think of, and that's why you're seeing right here on display for the world to see. Shame on you, all the women. Send them back, all the men. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I'm kind of like interested, by the way. I have another video on this. Here they are as well. Listen to them saying, send them back. Watch this. Yeah, they're saying send them back. That's all. That's the only answer here. Is to send everybody back. Like, there's really no other option besides mass deportations, detention centers. You're gonna have to be racist, and you're gonna have to kill a lot of them. Anyone who raped anyone while they were here, they got to get shot.
Yeah, include the female politicians too, if you don't mind.
Well, I wasn't gonna go to jail right now, but
yeah,
you know,
well, that's me.
I'll
go to jail.
Yeah, maybe we don't need that right now at Riff TV.
Yeah,
but
right.
This is why I've had debates with people, especially when I was still in college, on the death penalty. And these are just those cases where I feel like any argument against it just absolutely falls apart. You have these crimes where that one you read earlier, so harrowing. 4 men inside one 12-year-old little girl. I almost can't even comprehend that. It is so disgusting and despicable. Yeah, those people should be publicly executed. It should be live streamed. The world should see that. It's like I just stated a second ago. Wickedness of this magnitude requires a display of strength from the state. If you do this to the most vulnerable in our society, we will fucking kill you. We will fucking kill you. That's the only way to go about that. And sometimes strong language is required for strong action, for people to understand where you're coming from and what you will do to them if you victimize our children, our little girls. Yeah, like We are going to fucking kill you if you do something like this. That's the only thing that they deserve. And for the ones who were just complicit, who didn't do it, but they knew about it, they all go home. They all are sent back. They never belonged there in the first place. It was not their country to move to. It was not their country to take social services from. It was not their country to live in public housing. It was not their country to flood the hospital so they could get free healthcare. It's not their country to touch little girls and rape them. It's not their country to live in at all. Go home, and if you did this to our children, then you fucking die.
Right. Well, and here's the deal. I found the protest, actually. There's a libs are protesting to bring the algae back to the reflecting pool. I can't with the libs.
Bro.
You know, it's like they're so libtarded.
It's a great transition.
Yeah, they're so libtarded that that's what they're fighting for. Right? I'm just saying that's what they're fighting for. They care about reflection pools. But, you know, it's no different than the right. The right cares about UFC and, you know, is my black guy fighting against your black guy? I love the World Cup. It's like just a bunch of Africans kicking balls. And it's like, my Africans are better than your Africans. It's like, why don't we just like stop putting Africans in our sports teams? You know, why don't we just stop glorifying these people? It's not even fair. It's like, so you have non-French people on the French team. What even is that? What is that?
Just not even a French team.
Yeah, it's like oh, you know, our
it's just another African team.
Right. It's just African games. And it's happening here in Dallas right now. And I want to bring up another topic for a second here to transition about some stuff going on with Trump. You know, Trump is kind of not happy with Netanyahu. And he said something very interesting because Netanyahu says he's going to keep bombing Lebanon. Let's talk about the Iran war. Let's get into that. And let's get into our global conflicts. All right, well, Trump is now talking differently about Israel, and I don't know exactly what happened except for the fact that Netanyahu sidearmed him, and I think that perhaps it's because the midterms are coming up and people are not happy with Israel, so he's going to take a more of a temporarily negative opinion on Israel. Listen to this new description he has for Israel, and I don't think it's going to stick, but this is at the G7.
But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner, and he's the very small partner, and that's true. So... But it's been an amazing partnership.
So he's a small partner, right? So that's the change. It's like they went from our greatest ally to the very small partner. And I like Cassandra Fairbanks shared, I'm going to use it all the time now. Israel, our very small partner. They're a very, very small partner. And it gets worse, though. You know, Trump was talking about basically this situation. And he talked about, you know, with Iran, he threatened Iran and basically said, we're watching you. And if you make one wrong move, we are still going to bomb you. Listen to this about Space Force.
But I'm proud of Space Force because I started it. We have Space Force cameras on every single door, well, there are no doors. They've been pretty well shattered. But every area of that, if somebody walks in,
Howard Lutnick there,
and he's got a badge with his name on it, like Mohammed something, which is about a 50-50 guess, Mohammed something, they can tell the name. They can give you a serial number. We can see things you wouldn't believe the quality of the stuff that we have.
You know what's weird he said that, though, is I don't know a lot about what my mom and grandfather did at Northrop for the B-2 bomber. I know enough, but they couldn't tell me things. But this is during the Cold War in the 80s, by the way. She wasn't allowed to wear a name badge, and they had to cover their plates to go drive into Northrop. And they did that because the Russians had satellites that could read their name badges. This is in the 80s. So I'm not entirely sure how this is a flex because the Russians could do this in the 80s. Could we not? I don't know. I'm just wondering. It's kind of weird. But the Russians could read our name badges in the 80s. But he's like, we can read their name badges. Like, dude, that was like 40 years ago.
They actually recently discovered, it was a couple years ago, that all of I have to think. Can I say that? Yeah, I think I can. The cameras that are used on military installments, like secret military installments, have Chinese software, and they're built by China, and there's Chinese chips in them that were sending data back to China, which is interesting. So it still happens today. It does.
Yeah, I feel like this is not impressive. I feel like this peace deal is a disaster. It's already not holding up. Israel's already screwing with this. But I think we're kind of over the Iran war. Basically, the Iran war set us right back to where we were. And, as Trump said the other day, Israel just wouldn't be here if it wasn't for what we did. And I don't think it was about a nuke. I think that Iran was going to, send rockets. And if we didn't defend Israel, they've been wiped out by Iran. That's a given fact.
Yeah.
That's a given fact.
And will Iran hold to the peace deal if Israel continues bombing Lebanon? I don't know. It feels like we've gone over this a million times. How many peace deals have been kind of signed already? It's been a few, right? Or at least the deliberations were happening and the ceasefire was signed, and then Israel bombs Lebanon and it's all over and we're back to square one.
Yeah, but this is what our country is about. This is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to push. It's just foreign wars, and we are ignoring our domestic problems. And, I don't feel safe out in the street walking around. We have the World Cup here, and it's really funny. All these Scottish people are finding out in Boston there was a big party, and all the blacks were really surprised that they had this big party and there was no trash. They cleaned up after themselves. They were just like shocked. It was like, yeah, America used to be like this, guys. We didn't have trash everywhere. We used to clean up, and we were a European colony that got independence. And, the Scottish were talking about how they felt so at home in Boston. And it's like, yeah, because you're white Europeans, so you feel safe in a white European country that was built for white Europeans. And that proves that America is not just soil. It is blood and soil. It is the people who live here. When you import the third world, you become the third world. I know it's shocking. I know you never heard that before. But the point is what we found out from the World Cup. Dude, go look at some of the games against other nations. There's fights and trash and whatnot in these third world games. Look outside the stadiums. It's crazy. The European games are.
Time to mention the super chat we got.
Go ahead.
Mr. Dissident, $10. He says, "It is necessary that I should die for my people, but my spirit will rise from the grave, and the whole world will know I was right."
I wonder who said
I think
that.
that's a Uncle H quote.
Really?
Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Big Daddy
Something
H.
gives me the feeling that it was.
Yeah, me too. So real,
Interesting.
Mr. Dissident.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, moving along here. I just mean this this song came out. What's her name? Bobby Waldorf? What's her name? Bobby?
I'm pretty sure this chick is Jewish.
Well, she left her husband
pretty sure.
and child to sleep with black people. Very noble.
This is the
profession.
UK parliamentary females. Check
Yes.
this out.
And she recorded a rap video. She left her family to do this.
If you want a date, he gotta pay. I'm really
UK Parliament.
a spoiled brat. I'm having my way. He acts like he's a boss. I've seen Uber on his pay stub. You call him your soulmate. I call him my mistake. All these bitches in my comment section full of hate. Cause I make her favorite rapper rub my feet and feed me grapes. I'm kidding, or am I? Would you like to know? If he takes me to dinner, I'm gonna send him home broke. I do it cause I can. No, I don't need a man. I'm with Sukiyana on a beach, I need a tan. Make him sign an NDA before I let him hit it. Cause guys talk more than me and I talk for a living.
Well, that's actually the only good thing I've seen out of her mouth. Do make people sign an NDA. That's a good advice, Elijah. But yeah, it's just the negrification of America in the white race has been a crime against humanity, and I'm very much against it. And it's like all this mud sharking and gang and rap music and stuff. It's like every hot girl that you see that's white at the club at the bar is throwing ass, twerking, they're popping ass, and it's like it's hot to see their ass, but it's like, do I really want my race of people like it's like, okay, you just kind of accept it that there's like black influence, and I think that there's a statement about, I don't know if you know, speaking of the old guard, there was a real problem in the Roman Empire because of the slaves. That there was, I forget what his name was, but he wrote about it, about how being surrounded by slaves, it had brought slave mindset into the Roman Empire, and that they had so many slaves to ratio to actual Roman citizens that it actually ended up like negrifying the actual culture, and they ended up becoming a little bit more brute and like less orderly, and they became more degenerate, and it was directly related to being surrounded by the third world. And it, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, the loss of Christianity and whatnot, but what was it replaced with? It was replaced with third world brutism. And you know, you know about those phrases like "you are who you hang out with." When you hang out with people who are degenerate, sorry, Nikki. When you hang out with people, joking, but when you hang out with people who, like, if you start listening to rap music, which I did like freshman year and stuff, I started calling people foo and trying to be like, yo, don't get, you know, talking about calling guns gats.
Saying nigga too much.
Yeah, well, that's just like that meme. It's like that white guy, like, good morning, nigga. And the other white guy's like, good morning, my nigga.
Yeah.
No,
When you use it, it's a problem when you use it when you're angry with people and you call them nigga. It's like, oh, brother.
Yeah, but it's more like a joke. It's like, good morning, my friendly nigga. How art thou? That's more of like a joke. But it does get to a point where we can't have this culture amongst us. And you see the damage of what happened when we glorified African Americans. It's just done untold damage to our society.
What happens when you're told your whole life that you don't have a culture? Eventually, you're going to adopt whatever is most popular and influential, which was, you know, when I was growing up, hip hop culture was very popular, and rap I don't think really fell off until after the trap era in like early 2020. You know, now rap is not hitting top 10 charts at all. It's not even getting on the top 100. Lately,
Country's going up there.
Country's going up. So maybe we'll get back to that. But yeah, once you separate the culture and you don't identify with it anymore, you're going to appropriate someone else's and take it upon yourself. That's what we see with women and children and, you know, like young teenage boys that get into drugs or, you know, whatever. They like the beat and then they just go a little too far down the, you know, in the mud waters, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, I've talked about it. I've tweeted about it before that wiggerfication is a national crisis.
Yeah.
It's a national emergency.
It is.
You know, we all have that phase. I had my wigger phase in high school. You know, you sitting around it's over now. Can you believe that?
Dude, the problem with frat guys and
Elijah's
rap,
coming out of his.
The epidemic of frat guys and liking rap music, it's got to stop that. The trap music and sororities and
frats.
frats.
To replace it with? I mean, that's what they have. That's
back what they used to be. Like, you were like gentlemen's clubs and you would like go golfing and you would like
Kesha
we
and
still
Miley
do
Cyrus.
that, bro. Like, what are you, dude who was never in a frat is LARPing like he knows what frats are and what they're about. We golf. Look at what I'm wearing right now. Do I not look like one? We listen to, like, when you're at a frat party, it's like, yeah, there is some rap songs that get thrown in there, but it's a lot of like EDM and then like pop remixes. You know, you'll have like a Katy Perry banger.
I went to a lot of frat parties and it was
you'll
just
have like hot
dirty
and
black
cold
rap.
Well, you're also old, bro. So
No.
we've upgraded. We have changed.
I see the
since
videos
then.
this day on TikTok and it's just like absolutely nuts. And the girls are all like negrofied and they're like, they twerk and stuff. And it's like, and they also, the
Also
girls
went to
love
Baylor, so it's a little bit
you went
better
to a Christian
than usual.
school, but like talking about like in the UC system and like public schools in California, it's like, it's all whites. The Asians are doing it too, by the way.
True.
You know, the Asians are getting like negrofied as well. Like they're all being chickas.
Well,
you
shout
know,
out to Just Whiffin 8380. He says, I was a full blown wigger like 25 years ago. I don't know why I think that's so funny.
also shout out Doomsday
Shout
for the
out.
5 extra gifted subs. So shout out to that. For those of you guys that are watching, I appreciate you guys. It's been a great show. It's been absolutely fantastic. We were going to get into some of the stuff on plane crashes, but it's not that interesting. It's a little bit old. I think it's a little stale. If you want to follow us, ElijahSchaefer.locals.com. The problem is that we found out like some bad faith actors were in the locals and were in the Discord and stuff. So we've been trying to ban them and get them out. Shout out to Notice Where I Am, who is my Discord mod. And for legal purposes, everything written in Discord is written by Noticer, even if it's me. You know, it's a brand. So thank you, Noticer, for being my representative. And I really appreciate that. But I think tonight we may do a little outdoor cigar stream on locals. While Georgie goes and gets some pizza.
Someone says, if Elijah is gay, I wish he would have just said something before I gave him $60.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, girl. Same exact way.
Oh, give me 100 and I'll be gay for sure. Gay for pay. I'm only gay for 100. No, but it's been really great, guys. Follow me at Elijah Shaver. Follow me. We're back posting some social media content on Rift TV on Instagram. Back posting some on TikTok as well. I got to change it. Still slightly-offensive.tv. I really appreciate it. I was considering changing the Rift Instagram back to slightly-offensive.tv. I was considering it, or like around there. Just bringing it back to the show because of what we're doing. And leaving it at that. I really appreciate you guys for following. But, we're able to grow again finally
We'll
and
keep
get
it
some
as
followers.
Rift, I think.
Oh, you do?
We'll keep it as
okay.
Rift. Yeah.
Fine, buddy.
Yeah,
Fine.
because
everyone was asking what happened to that page.
Yeah, well, it's not just slightly offensive anymore. It's like if we do like,
all right, that's enough.
Nikki does his stuff.
That's enough.
Okay.
All right, go to Nikki.
Nikki,
what's up, you guys? Had some passionate statements today. It's a very deep and dark topic, but it's extremely important that we understand what we're up against, what we're facing. So thank you guys for listening tonight. You're going to continue hearing monologues from me like that. Hopefully in the future, maybe my own show coming soon. Road Report. Stay tuned. But find me on Twitter, on X at Nicky Rudd X, and then on Instagram and TikTok. Just look up my name, Nicky Rudd. You'll be able to find it from there. And we're only up from here, you guys. So stay tuned. Big things ahead.
Georgie.
Yeah, hey guys, it's Georgie here, at Sith Lord Groiper on Twitter. As I say on every show, we need clippers always. Right now, we need specifically clippers that will do short form content, or not short form content, but shorts, like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube shorts, and like format it properly for that. Our other clippers, they focus primarily on X clips. So if you're interested, hit me up on Twitter. And we're also probably going to hire a new journalist soon. So also, if you're interested in writing for Rift, let me know.
Yep, and to the rest of you guys watching, have a great rest of the week. We'll see you Friday night. We'll actually be Friday at 6. I was just traveling, so you guys know I was traveling for legal stuff out of state, and so I couldn't produce because I was out of state. We should be back in the state now. Should be back doing journalism and whatnot. But as the show goes, we're gonna have a lot of controversial people on, people might not like. I've always really been proud of just having people on, not because people like them or don't like them, but because there are some people who do like them, and sometimes I even have them on because they're hated. And so I don't really care if people are mad about who I invite on. I don't really pander to the audience there. Just kind of put on people that I want to. So we're going to start having some guests, some in-person guests over the next few weeks, which I think will be kind of fun. And if you hate them, hate watch it. And if you love them, love watch it. But I think it's kind of fun because sometimes I really like having guests on that you guys hate because you get more super chats and you guys like to say stuff to them. And it's kind of fun. You kind of get to lambast them. And then you guys get to hate me for a week. We're like, I hate you had this person on. And you're like, hate me. But they get a chance to tell their story. That's what we've always been about, is telling the story. We put the most heinous people on our street videos. We don't care. It's all about the truth and letting everyone talk, because in a world of free discourse and ideas, let the truth prevail. And don't let cancel culture, mobs, cliques, factions of the right control what you can or cannot listen to. Think for yourself, trust in the Lord. And I'm also kind of headed on a good journey too. I'll just mention this just briefly. It's like I kind of made a decision recently, I'm not going to explain why, but I just said, I feel like in my mind, it kind of was a little bit like becoming like what we can become on the right and the left, where it's like, yours really grinds my gears on the right and you're mad at everything. And then on the left, you're like a victim. And in the end, you're like, oh, everything's out of my control. I'm like it's like a victim mindset. I wasn't exactly there, but I could have gotten there with bitterness. I think bitterness makes you a victim. And I started becoming really bitter because, people have done some bad things. And I realized, Is moping about the bad things of the past really going to create a bright future? No. And the Bible says those who are free indeed, and the truth will set you free. And I've thought, you know what? Don't wait for your family, your friends, and the people around you, even the public or your job, to think you're something so that you feel something. Because as Owen Benjamin said on Tucker Carlson, I'd rather tell the truth and be wrong than to be right and lie. Meaning, it's like better to be publicly wrong and being telling the truth than to be right and accepted publicly, but you're lying. And it's better to be seen as a bad person while knowing you're trying to do good than to be a good person, but be doing bad. And I think that's a really good quote, whether you love or you hate the guy, it's a very good quote. I'm just going to go ahead and try to do good for myself, for my family, for my kids who are home now, for my life and my future. And I'm going to let the internet say what the internet wants. I'm going to let the people say what they want. But in the end, I'm going to choose to do what's right and do what's good. And I'm not going to let that hold me down. And so I hope to see really good things. I hope I have a good mindset coming forward with you guys, and that we start having a lot of fun. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun again on here. Starting on Friday is Juneteenth. It's June 19th. So get ready for a fun
My
stream.
favorite holiday.
It is my favorite holiday. And
So excited.
we're going to be celebrating the real blacks this Friday. We'll just leave it there. The real blacks this Friday. We're going to have a fun stream. Talk a little news, but we're going to be focusing on our favorite topic, the blacks. We'll see you there at 6 p.m. Central Time. Have a great rest of the week, and may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.